This is AgGrad Live.
We have all of the different segments within the cotton.
The show that explores what it's really like to work in the ag industry.
So making sure that we get policy and regulatory issues
straight from the people who live it every day.
Hello, AgGrad Nation. We are back with another AgGrad Live. Very excited about today's episode because it's going to address several of the questions I get quite often, actually, about should one look at a master's? What's the benefit of a master's? What's it like to kind of move up into management, managing other people? Really, really excited about this show with somebody that I actually went through the Masters of Agribusiness program with at Kansas State University. So excited about this guest. And before we dive into it, I do want to provide a little reminder that this show is actually now being repurposed on YouTube and as a podcast. So if you don't catch all of the live episodes, which I wouldn't expect, everybody's arranging their schedule around these broadcasts. If you don't catch all of them live, make sure you go subscribe to AgGrad on YouTube or find us on iTunes or whatever podcast player that you use. But let's bring on our guest today. We have Andy Montgomery. He's a brand manager of the new LG Seeds. The new LG Seeds. Andy, welcome to the show.
Hey, welcome, Tim. Glad to be here.
Maybe for starters, just tell us when I say the new LG Seeds, what exactly that means.
Yeah, so, excited to announce that starting this summer, July of 2018, AgReliant Genetics, which is the parent company that I work for, is actually merging 6 of their seed brands into one new LG seed starting in July. So essentially, we're unifying the brands of Great Lakes hybrids, that's kind of in the upper Midwest. Winsman Hybrids, which is located in Minnesota, kind of serves that North Dakota, South Dakota market. Producers Hybrids in Nebraska. The LG Seeds that many know in the Midwest, that's based out of Peoria, Illinois. Golden Acres, which is based out of Texas or the Waco area. And then Eureka Seeds out in California. So we're going to unify all those brands into one larger, more focused brand starting this summer.
And AgReliant owned all of those brands prior, right? And so they kept them separate, but now kind of bringing them in under one.
Yeah. So starting in July, AgReliant's going to go to the market with really a 2-brand approach. AgriGold Hybrids will be our direct-to-the-farm seed brand, and then LG Seeds will be our dealer-focused brand moving forward.
Okay. Well, tell us your position as a brand manager. I think to a lot of people who maybe aren't in that space, they might not know exactly what a brand manager does. So help us understand that title.
Well, really, from a brand manager, a lot of people would probably refer to it as a general manager position, but really responsible for everything from the strategy of the brand to really the sales efforts of the brand, focused on the marketing efforts, our product portfolio, really, and pulling it together with a vision and a strategy for the future. So, really all aspects of running a seed brand, I've got my hands in it at some point in time.
Okay, and you're not new to the seed business. If I'm remembering right, you've been in the industry for 20 or maybe more years. If somebody wants to end up as a brand manager, what's the typical career path to getting there?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, this May will be my 20th year in the seed business, and actually all 20 of those years with AgReliant. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So I've been with essentially one company my entire career. I think to tell a young person or really anybody that's got interest in being a brand manager, general manager of any seed company, I think it's all about experiences. Mm-hmm. I know we're always trying to go through our careers and build our resumes, and I think that is true. But ultimately, you're just trying to build experiences and really combine those experiences to a point that you can manage something and have some feel for what the environment is. In some cases, before it even happens, you've seen it in the past. It's amazing how things just repeat over time. And I think for a manager to be really effective, they have to have at some point in time been through it, seen it, experienced it, so they can coach and help other people along the way.
Yeah, that's hard because you get really ambitious people coming out of like undergrad, and they're just ready to take on the world. They've done every extracurricular, they've shown their leadership potential, and they think boy, I just need to fast track it to management. And then you've got the other side that's been doing this a decade or two saying, look, you really have to kind of pay your dues, and not really pay your dues as in that, you're owed something once you're there a long enough time, but really get in those types of situations. And one question that kind of comes up with that is a master's. Like, is it, if I'm finishing up with my undergrad and I want to fast track it to management, should I pursue a master's? And I know because you and I went through the program together. You went through the Kansas State University MAB program, Masters of Agribusiness. For you, how did you make that decision to first of all get your master's, and second of all to pursue that program?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, for me, and I think everybody goes to the program for a different reason. They want to learn a new skill set. They want to experience the university feel again. They want to go back to class. They want to sharpen skills maybe they didn't have. I think for me, I had been in the seed business my entire career and really hadn't, been influenced by other industries and other people outside of general ag and seed. And really for me, it was an opportunity for me to get out of my comfort zone, get outside of the connections that I had been around for years, and meet new people, sit in a classroom with other professionals that are in totally different, sectors of agribusiness. That was what was really neat about Kansas State in particular, is that they were all agribusiness professionals, just like you, Tim. You were in that arena, but yet not in the same arena that I was in.
Right.
So, in a different part of the country. And, I probably would say that those 2.5 or 3 years it took to get through the program, I learned more from just interacting with my peers in that group. And I think for me, it got me outside of that world that I was so used to. Up until that time, I was used to agriculture in the I-states. If it didn't happen in Illinois, Indiana, or Iowa, in a lot of cases, I just wasn't that familiar with it.
Yeah.
It was great to see how the machinery business operated, to see how some of my competitors and other parts of the country operated. And for me, I think it renewed my interest in agriculture, and it renewed my interest in strategy. It removed my interest in future management and brand management more than anything. So it got me out my comfort zone, and I think it made me a little sharper. I think after you do something so long in your career, you need to sharpen somehow. And really, that 3 years at Kansas State, I felt like I left a little sharper than I was when I got there.
No, yeah, I would agree. And I know probably for you and for me, one draw to that program too was the fact that we didn't have to go full time, that we could do our coursework after work. It's kind of a cool program for those of you who haven't heard of it. It's 2 weeks a year on campus for 2 years. And then the rest of it's all distance courses. And you go through it as a cohort, just like Andy's describing, to where we had people in there, who were full-time farmers, people in there from, John Deere. Obviously, Andy was with AgriGold, which I guess is part of AgReliant. I didn't realize that we're all the same company throughout. And so it's really neat to learn from each other and spend those 2 weeks a year together. For you, what do you think you got out of that maybe you wouldn't if you went into a master's right out of college, right out of undergrad?
Well, a great question. And really, and a lot of people have asked me that. A lot of young people that, are just exiting their 4-year degree and say, hey, do I go right into my master's degree program? And, my recommendation to them is go out and get some experiences. Because, during our time at Kansas State and in the MAB program, so many of the times they wanted real world examples. Here's a class project, here's something to work on. Use an example from your career. And it was really interesting to hear other people or professionals at the time, that had diverse experiences. And we could build our projects right off the experiences they've already earned or learned. Really, I would think it would be difficult for somebody right out of college to have those experiences and those projects and go through some challenges in their career. They would have to make up things. And really, for me personally, I didn't have to make up anything. I had a gazillion different, projects, opportunities, challenges that I could use in my coursework. And I think that was a real value.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's that context that, if you're talking logistics, sure, you can memorize the answers to the test. But if you've really had the challenge of logistically moving, bulk product from one place to another, the knowledge that you gain really sticks with you, and
Yeah.
you just have a vested interest. Well, I know things have changed for you. You're still with the same employer, but things have changed for you since your Master's of Agribusiness. What sticks out to you as do you feel like you gained skills and knowledge in that program that has since helped you kind of propel your career from there?
Well, I would say for me, it was just my awareness of number one, probably, financial terms. Even
Hmm.
though during my undergrad, I had taken management and financial courses, but, it had been 15 years. And,
Right.
up until really the Kansas State, I'd spent my entire career as a DSM or as a mid-level manager, a regional sales manager, a division manager. So I had been managing the sales process and really
Hmm.
not a whole lot beyond that. So after those 3 years at Kansas State, our statistical courses, having that knowledge of how that works really helped propel me into my next position outside of being a sales leader was working in product management within our organization. And a lot of that's data, a lot of that's numbers, and being able to sit in a room full of breeders that are talking about correlations of how products perform in certain geographies. Even though I was by no means an expert, I understand what they were talking about.
Yeah.
When they were talking about LSDs, when they were talking about R values, when they were talking a lot of statistical terms, I had some base knowledge of how that information that they were making decisions was derived. And I found that extremely powerful. Even though
Yep.
I'm not using it myself, being able to converse with somebody on the data that they were sharing us was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. That data-driven decision-making mindset through the courses like finance and optimization and econometrics, and I think that stuff is hugely valuable. And I know for you now, you are responsible for a lot of employees, and wanted to ask you about kind of managing others and the learning curve that you had to go through from maybe being a salesperson to actually being responsible for the performance of others. So tell us about that and kind of what you have learned in your time in management.
Well, I tell you what, anything that I do today, I've not created out of the blue. I mean, I've been blessed to have some awesome leaders, some great mentors that I still work with today. I've learned from them. Everything I do today is some bit and piece of what somebody's done with me over time. And, I've really found that, once you kind of progress through your career, especially once you get to that management level, the ability to really sit down and listen,
Hmm.
and not react is a powerful tool. And having some level of patience. I've also found that so much happens at such a speed that a lot of people just react. And it's amazing if you can keep yourself from reacting, how many things can either calm down or fix themselves in a matter of hours if you can find yourself not reacting to everything that comes at you. Because
Hmm.
I found that from a management standpoint, people are throwing things at you all the time. I mean, literally all the time, and you can't manage it all. And you've got to be able to surround yourself with other leaders and other people that can find their own solutions. And that's how my mentors and leaders have always done with me. They've given me the rope and the ability to find decisions, make decisions on my own. And that's one thing that I really try to instill with everybody I work with. I mean, you've got the tools, you've got the ability, you've got the knowledge. You don't want to be managed. We want to work together collaboratively. We
Right.
want to coach through the people around us, and at the same time, we want to lead 360. Lead up, lead down, lead around, and if you find a group of people that have the ability to do that, it's amazing what you can get done. And I've kind of seen that with the next generation of employees we'd hire. Nobody wants to be managed. Everybody wants to
Right.
be part of the decision.
Hmm.
They want to be engaged in the process. They want transparency, which is huge today in
Yeah.
our world. So the key for me has just been open communication. And I've also found that as a leader in an organization that you can never communicate too much. About the time that I feel like I'm sick of saying it, or I think everybody has heard this too much, somebody says, okay, I get it. They've heard it the first time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got to communicate. I mean, you've heard it before. You got to
Over-communicate.
communicate.
Yeah.
And at the time where you think you have over communicated it is probably the point where people are just starting to get it.
Yeah.
And that has been just consistency in communication, not in and out, has been really, really, really helpful in my career as well.
Cool. You mentioned mentors, and that's another question that comes up a lot. Is it's kind of awkward to go from that stage of like you're the new employee to like having a mentor. How have you found your mentors, and how does that relationship work?
I have found a lot of people over. Ag is a very small world. I mean, it's ridiculously small. I bounce into people all the time that I have met over the years, and I really I would also recommend you cherish the relationships that you gain in the world of agriculture, because I guarantee they will circle around at some
right.
point. You never know who your next boss is going to be in this business. But really, for me, mentors, I don't think it's something you want to force. I have never turned down a time when somebody has actually said, "Hey, Andy, would you like to go have lunch with me? I'd like to run some ideas past you."
Yeah.
And and I've done the same thing, whether it be just people I have met with other, even competitors that I've met over time that I've really respected, and say, "Hey, you want to go have lunch someday? You want to meet, sit down?" And I've never felt also that people have ever held anything back. If I ask a question, they're going to give me a straightforward answer. But one of my greatest mentors is really one of my peers to this day, and that individual has challenged me. Has been willing to coach me. Has been willing to, probably when I was going down the wrong path, pull me aside and say, "Hey, Andy, you do what you want to do, but you need to know I've been down that path before, and here's what happened. And it wasn't good."
Yeah.
And having somebody that you trust enough, and I think has enough trust in you to give you that kind of advice it's priceless, because they have saved you a lot of time and a lot of energy when somebody's cared enough to pull you aside and tell you those kind of things.
Right. Oh, no, I think that's fantastic. It's something that is so important, but I think people are looking for the answer how to do. And I agree. I'm on these groups of people who are in other industries that are doing podcasts and shows like this. And the one problem they always bring up is like, "Oh, it's so hard to get people to come on the show." And it's like, boy, in ag, I really haven't had a problem at all. Like, people are willing to talk to you if you just take the initiative to ask them. And I think that's true at all levels in industry wide. And I think that's one reason it's pretty good. A good place to work.
Yeah. Well, I think people in ag realize that they can learn from everybody. I mean, every contact I've ever made in agriculture, I've learned something from, period. Every single one. And I probably take more away from somebody asking me to take them to dinner than they ever got from me. So it's a two-way street. And I think sometimes people think a mentor-mentee relationship's a one-way street. And I think it goes both ways.
I think that's absolutely true. One reason we like doing the show is we talk about how, you can only learn so much about a job from reading a job description or job posting online. So get somebody on here who really does the job and ask them what it's really like. So for you, what do you find to be the most challenging part of your job?
It probably really comes down to, I've always found that, depending on your personality type, and I really like personal relationships. I want to engage with our employees, with our team members, with our dealers, with our customers. And, you can only be in one place at one time.
Right.
And, there's that balance between doing what you love to do, which is being out in the field, and then balancing, the time you have to spend back working on budgets and financial reports and strategy. So really just balancing out that workload has been something that, I think I learned a lot from, working full-time and going back to school. And I think if you plan ahead and you're really strategic about what you do, when you do it, and how you do it, nobody has unlimited time. And I really don't look at it as time management. I look at it as task management. I don't manage my time. I have the same amount of time as every single person out there. But I think I can manage my tasks better than some people can at some point in time. So I'm a taskmaster. I look at what needs to be done. I try to put goals to it. I try to put timelines to it, and I just try to march through that. And if somebody asks something of me, I've never said no. I said, how much time do we have? How big a task is it? Tell me as much as you can, and we'll plug it into the old taskmaster schedule, and we'll get it done. The other thing has probably been just communication. I mean, like I said, that is, you got to be thinking about it all the time. And, and especially in the opportunity that I'm involved in right now, merging all these.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Yeah.
You've got different cultures at different organizations. You got a lot of people that are going to be in some new roles within the unified brand, which is exciting for everybody. But, at the same time, we're kind of finishing the year out in our legacy brands. And at the same time, we're working to unite and start and launch a new brand. And just the amount of communication across all the departments is just, it's amazing. And I've been impressed how everybody's worked. But, the other thing is that not everybody communicates the same. So you can't just depend on email. You can't just depend on webinars and go-to meetings. There's this combination of text and emails and webinars and apps and social media just to get it pulled off. But you really have to over communicate just to kind of get to that baseline.
Yeah, right. Well, Andy, it's no question how you've been so successful in the seed business. I mean, your combination of valuing people but also getting tasks done is pretty unique, and I really appreciate you being on the show. If somebody is paying attention here and they want to take you out for a steak dinner and ask you a question, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Wait, really the absolute easiest way to get a hold of me is shoot me an email, andy.montgomery@lgseeds.com. There's not an email I wouldn't respond to.
Cool. I actually just threw that up there on the screen. So I really appreciate the time, Andy. This has been a lot of fun and really interesting, and excited to share this with the entire community.
I appreciate it as well. It's been great.
Thank you for joining AgGrad Live. Visit aggrad.com. That's AGGRAD to join the community, create your profile, and learn more about careers in the agriculture industry.